Hey guys, Jeff here. So I've been messing with Jamstix under OS 10 with Jamstix Wine. It's the one plugin I've really missed since ditching the Windows side of things. A user on the Jamstix forum, Dugan42, did a phenomenal job of setting up and configuring a wine installer to run Jamstix. I've been messing with it for a few weeks, got it working in Studio One and in Logic, and put up a post on the forums, and somebody expressed interest in seeing how I set this up in Studio One. So here I am. First of all, I'm not going to configure or go over the configuration, the initial configuration from the install. If you look at the docs that are included, more than sufficient. What I'm going to be covering here is getting it to drive MIDI and MIDI sync between the Reaper install and Studio One. Okay, so with that said, let's start. The first thing you could end up doing is going to your audio MIDI setup, and we're going to look at your IAC driver. This whole thing is run over IAC. Okay, and you'll see here I have two ports. I think by default there's IAC 1, and then I added a second one called clock send. That's going to be important. We're going to be using two IAC ports to make this happen. To add one, just click your plus button, it'll add it. Name it if you want, you don't have to. Double click on it a couple times, call it whatever you want. You don't have to do that. If you want to remember IAC 1 and IAC 2, that's fine. But, you know, this is just for recognition when I'm looking at it. And then, of course, make sure your device is online. Okay, so first thing, let's go ahead and do Jack Pilot per the documentation and start it. I'm not interested in getting the audio. I'm just interested in getting the MIDI. You probably don't even need this point if we're just driving MIDI, but I've been through too many trials and errors in getting this working. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, so we're gonna let that run. And we're gonna fire up the Jamstix Wine to get Reaper running. And it's gonna crash on me because I probably pulled something I shouldn't have earlier. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna wait for the message. Okay. First thing I do, just for easy use, I set up a second desktop and I'll drag Reaper up to there. Okay. You don't have to do that. I just, you know, for ease of jumping back and forth, because you're going to do that a few times. All right. So first thing we're going to do, just like the documentation states, we're going to insert a new virtual instrument on the track. We're going to add Jamstix. Okay. Let it do its thing. For this, I'm just going to throw in something so we get some sound. Okay. All right. So we're going to go, make sure you do this. You go into your options for Reaper. And we're going to go to our MIDI devices. Now, you'll see the IAC buses we created. For the inputs, I've only enabled the clock send bus that I made and control only, because it's going to be getting the input from Studio One. Okay, I don't need MIDI input, I just want the control messages, the clock, okay? And then for the outs, we're going to enable the MIDI send bus, or whichever bus that you've created, okay? This is what's going to send the MIDI to Studio One. So that's enabled, and we have control only for the clock send bus that I made. Again, whatever you name it. Okay, so now on the bus, let's go to the I/O for the bus, and we're going to send the hardware output to the MIDI send. Okay, that's what Studio One's going to receive the MIDI on. Okay, so there's that. All right, so what I'm going to do is jump back over to this desktop, and I'm going to go in here. This is per the documentation. This is for the sound. I don't even want to hear Reaper. So we're going to disable all sound coming out of Reaper through Jack. Again, probably don't need it, but whatever. Okay, so let's fire up Studio One. And it's going to bark because I don't have my keyboard turned on. That's fine. Okay, the first thing we need to do, you're going to need to do this the first time. We're going to go configure external devices. And this is going to be needed for one, to receive the MIDI from Reaper, and then we're going to need another device to send the clock to Reaper, okay? So we'll do an add. Let's do a new keyboard first of all. Okay, this is going to be what's going to get the MIDI from Reaper. And, you know, call it whatever you want. We're going to receive from the MIDI send. I don't even need to put a send on it. You can if you want. It doesn't matter. Okay. So that's going to be our device to receive the MIDI from Reaper. Now to send, we're going to add another device. And we're going to put a new instrument in there. Okay. And call this like MIDI clock, whatever you want. I'm only going to put a send on the clock send. And here's the key. Check these off. Clock send, clock start, MIDI time code. Okay? So now the devices are there. We're going to say okay. Let's go ahead and start a new song. And let's just drop Steven Slate in there. And let's load a kit. By the way, I've been playing with the Perfect Rock kit quite a bit lately. Sounds good. Okay. For the inputs for it, let's just put it on the MIDI receive. Okay, because we set Reaper to send over the IAC bus on that, okay? Now we're going to jam back over to Reaper. If you right click on the play button, here's our synchronization thing. We're going to enable synchronization. We're going to check start playback on valid time code. And for whatever reason, I can really only get this to work and work right if I put it on SPP all inputs. Okay? Weird, but it works. Okay? Make sure this is at the beginning, and we're going to hit play. Now see, it's waiting for a time code signal to come from something, which is going to be Studio One. Okay? So let's give it a test. It's hit play, and we should see Studio One start playing, Reaper will start playing, and driving, it'll be driving Slate. So let's hit play. It's moving. There we go. So we get that working. What we're hearing is Steven Slate drums. If I hit stop here, Reaper stopped. Okay? Now we can go ahead, set this back. Let's record and enable the track and do it again. And there we go. Okay? So let's say you got some stuff programmed in there. If you want to just play in Studio One without it having driving Reaper for the time being, right click, uncheck the enable synchronization. That way if you come back over here into Studio One and hit play, it's not driving Reaper. You won't get duplicate stuff going on. Okay. One thing to note, a couple things. There might be a little bit of timing difference going on there. So what I like to do is I'll come in here and I'll take a look. Yep, it worked. If you find that your first downbeat note is a little off because of the synchronization, what I'm going to do is Control A, select everything, and drag your very first beat so it locks to the first downbeat. You'll see other stuff isn't completely on the beats, and that's okay. That's Jamstix doing its unionization. But I always put the first note, if it's not locked right on the first beat, I will put it there because I would like to assume that my drummer could at least get the first downbeat on beat, okay? Your mileage may vary. That way, we're pretty much in sync. The humanization factor is still there. Things are a little bit off. Another thing that I may do from time to time is I may come over here into Jamstix, and just to make sure that we get everything in sync well, I will come over here with whatever you got going on. I will insert a new part, and I'll call it silence. And then for the settings on that, I will set it to 2 bars, 1 repeat, make sure there's no fill on it. And then for that part, I will set, oops, I will set it to, there we go, silent. And I only do that just because I want to make sure that everything syncs. You know, give it a couple measures to get in sync. One other thing I highly, highly recommend, setting your tempo just to make sure. Let's say you're going to do a song at 140, right? I should have done this beforehand, but if you're going to do a song with 140 for your tempo, do the same. Come in here and set it the same for Reaper. I'm not entirely positive that the sync will work.